distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, hamjambo. Hamjambo tena. Yes, I don't know why I was invited to come, but I've been invited all the same. And I'm very happy to be here again to talk to the accountants, because I know that accounts is a very important function in business. Some of you may have read Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. Mwalimu Nyerere translated in Swahili. It's called Mbepari of Venice. Now, Mbepari of Venice, his only problem was that he did not take account of interest, because he loaned someone money, that is Mr. Shylock, but he did not put interest into the contract. So when the person who had been lent money defaulted in payment, he demanded that he should now be given the security, which was a pound of flesh. But then now he was told that, yes, you said you take a pound of flesh, but never did you say that there will be a blood. The blood will not spill. So he'll say, you take your 1 pound of flesh, but there's no blood. In other words, he did not put interest in the contract. That is how he failed. And that is what teaches us about accountancy. So I'm very happy to be here this morning to talk to you. And if I take too long, tell me to stop. I'm honored to join you for the 42nd annual seminar of the Institute of Certified Public Accounts of Kenya, and particularly to speak to you on the subject of economic transformation. Allow me first to congratulate the leadership of this institution, both for this prestigious seminar and the invaluable role this organization continues to play in the development of our country. ISPAC has been at the forefront of pushing for the highest standards of financial integrity and professionalism within the accounting sector. It also continues to be a pivotal voice on the pressing issues confronting our nation. This includes advocating for good governance and fostering accountability in both public and private sectors. You tasked me to speak on the subject of navigating the winds towards the achievement of Vision 2030 and economic transformation. In the interest of time, I wish to go straight to the subject. I am passionate and nostalgic about Vision 2030. You are all aware that the vision had its origins in the National Rainbow Government, but got formalized in the Grand Coalition Government, where I was the Prime Minister. Following the post-election violence of 2007-2008, Vision 2030 came at a time of uncertainty and doubt in the country. It restored hope, created stability, and jump-started the economy. I believe that if we were able to pull the country out of the rubble and heal the wounds of ethnic animosity that had burnt down sections of the land back then, we can do it again. Kenya has grappled with economic transformation its entire life. Vision 2030 is our most recent coherent and long-term attempt for transformation. I have been out of government since 2013. Even now, I'm not in government. My views here are therefore those of an observer watching from the sidelines as successive regimes have grappled with economic transformation. These are my observations on what has been achieved, what is holding us back, and what more needs to be done. We have made significant progress in many spheres. Our banking, services, and hospitality sectors remain very competitive. We have heavy investment in infrastructure and connectivity. Our uptake of technology is admirable. Our investment in geothermal, hydro, wind, and solar has made us leaders in renewable energy in Africa. But that is like a blind man among the deaf, among the blind. Despite the progress, Kenya still faces many existential challenges. These include massive unemployment, rising cost of living, inflation, debt, income inequality, climate change, and ethnic-charged toxic politics, among others. How we deal with these issues today will determine our future growth and stability or otherwise. The instability and prospects and protests we witnessed last year indicate that we do not have the luxury of time to create a country and an economy that works for everyone. Kenya must put intentional and adequate emphasis on growth, growing the size of the cake. Today, every Kenyan is fighting for a bigger slice and an increasingly very small cake. We have been obsessed with splitting the cake we inherited and not with baking a bigger cake and creating new opportunities. This mindset has put us in a situation where one person's gain is another person's loss. A sure recipe for endless bickering and instability. A complete mindset shift is long overdue. Growing the size of the cake takes deliberate hard work, not half measures and business as usual. I was the Minister of Roads when we made the decision to turn Thika Road into a superhighway and build the bypasses around our major towns. At that time, I became a very unpopular person when I came up with trying to decongest the traffic in the center of Nairobi. Oh, Raila is jealous of our progress. He wants to make us as poor as his own people. That's why he's doing that. We demolished structures which were on the road reserves, and Thika Highway was constructed. And the bypasses of Nairobi were constructed. You've seen the Dongokundu bypass here in Mombasa. You've seen the Eldoret bypass, the Kisumu bypass, the Nakuru bypass that they have not constructed, but they were all designed under my watch as Minister for Roads. There was hue and cry, threats, insults, and court cases. Today we enjoy the fruits of that difficult decision. We need intentional actions to make Kenya a natural hub for multinational business in Africa. This is what Singapore did. It is what China did. It is a tested way for growing an economy and creating jobs. To this end, state-of-the-art infrastructure is a must. Excellent roads, air, rail, and sea linkages. With the growth mindset, we will appreciate that we have to upgrade all our airports and highways, or build new ones. We have outgrown the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. It may have been a state-of-the-art facility when it opened in the 1970s. It no longer is. Nairobi-Mombasa Highway can no longer competitively serve this country. And we have many other institutions that were state-of-the-art decades back, but require to be upgraded. We need a deliberate, export-led industrialization policy. We can't transform our economy by importing everything, including needles and toothpastes. You don't have to venture straight into the big and the complex. Singapore began its industrialization journey with factories producing items like matches, fish hooks, and mosquito coils to satisfy the most basic needs. This is what gave way to the strong clusters in higher value added electronics, petrochemicals, components, and precision engineering by the late 70s and early 80s. The ongoing efforts by the government to develop industrial parks and special economic zones should therefore be encouraged and upscaled. We should then go all out to attract global multinational corporations to these parks as vehicles for industrial growth. To grow the size of the cake, we have to adopt a low and transparent tax regime and back it with a clean, lean, and efficient bureaucracy, a strong regulatory and legal framework, and a clean and green growth trajectory. Then we inject into the mix a fair and transparent judiciary. In the journey for economic transformation, so many things end up in court. A country stagnates and loses opportunities when its judiciary is corrupt, opaque, and incompetent. You have to produce and deploy world-class manpower. This is sometimes require that we integrate foreign and homegrown talent and being intentional in the sharing of skills and best practices. Once you have the human capital, you must pursue a rigorous application of meritocracy in its deployment. Meritocracy simply requires that we let the best person do the job if you want the results. Economic transformation therefore dictates that we embrace a zero tolerance for nepotism, complacency, corruption, and tribalism in all sectors of our economy. Education is critical to sustainable economic transformation. We therefore have to invest in uncompromising standards for a universally accessible, top-class public education system, the attention on provision of technical skills relevant to industrialization. Kenyans should never have to turn to heavily commercial private schools to access quality education. And this is what China did. China spent time trying to impart knowledge on its youth. And so that by the time they liberalized the economy, China became a very attractive investment destination because they had a huge population of young people who are skilled and cheap. So the manufacturing facilities in the West saw a big opportunity in China. That's why they all migrated to China. If you take automobile industry, for example, you take Mercedes, BMW, VW, Volvo, Ford, Nissan, Toyota, Hyundai, they're all in China. You're telling me in Germany that, look, it is cheaper to manufacture Mercedes-Benz in China and ship it back to Germany than the one manufactured in Stuttgart. See, that is how China managed. And within 30 years, China developed the biggest middle class in the world, 500 million people from poverty to middle class. That's what it is. But China is no longer the cheapest destination because people have become more affluent. There's a gap underneath there which is opening, which countries like Kenya and so on can fill, and the gap that Africa must move to fill. And we must never imagine that we can grow an economy in the middle of chaos and violence. Many nations are stagnated despite massive deposits of oil, gold, and other precious minerals, vast fertile virgin land because of social disintegration. Many nations have their professionals like you scattered in all corners of the world because of social cohesion fails. You must invest in building social cohesion out of the ethnic, racial, religious, political, and all other diversities that exist in our country. Many times, we think that economic transformation is just about sound policies. It takes much more than economic policies to transform an economy. Any policy can be reversed. Incentives for growth can be cancelled unilaterally. We need to invest in building institutions that can stand for the country and safeguard its broad vision no matter the regime. Reversal and abrupt discontinuation of policies thrive on the absence of rule of law, chaotic and amorphous governance structures, and prevalence of corruption. The fight against corruption must be our national constant. Growth can sometimes lead to income inequality. We must therefore constantly attempt to widen the social security safety net. This can partially address signs of unrest in a population struggling with the highest cost of living and lack of jobs. The government will have to strike a fine balance between being fiscally prudent and expanding welfare schemes. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a beautiful and uniquely situated country. If we position Kenya as the continent's leading financial and diplomatic center, ensure its competitiveness as a logistics and manufacturing, shipping and aviation hub, and keep it as a regional headquarters for global multinationals, the country's long-term outlook will remain very bright in the decades ahead, and transformation will be a given. I want to give you an example. I was a minister for roads and public works. Before that, I was minister for energy. Then I became the prime minister, supervising and coordinating all activities of the government. And at that time that we came up with the Vision 2030. And we say that we can transform our country from a backward third world economy to a middle income economy by the year 2030. And then we came up with what we call flagship projects that will help to propel us in that direction. Some of these you can see. SGR from Nairobi to, from Mombasa to Nairobi,